Cobra Triangle is one of the most notoriously difficult games for the NES. From the name, you might expect something with snakes and three-sided polygons, but it's actually an arcade-style speedboat action game where you'll blast your way across 24 treacherous waterways filled with aggressive enemy vehicles that attack without mercy. I've heard this game described as RC Pro-Am with boats, but while Cobra Triangle was made using the same game engine as RC Pro-Am, this game is more about survival than racing. Cobra Triangle was developed by Rare, the UK-based development studio that created some of the most challenging games for the NES, including IronSword Wizards and Warriors 2, Snake, Rattle, and Roll, and of course, Battletoads. Just like in Battletoads, Cobra Triangle has a lot of variety to its gameplay. Each level presents a new objective. Most often, you'll just have to reach the finish line, but sometimes you'll be disarming mines, protecting swimmers from aliens, or fighting savage sea monsters. To fight back against your foes, your Cobra-class speedboat can be upgraded by collecting power-up pods and then activating these abilities using a similar system to Konami's Gradius. Unlike in Gradius, though, you'll keep these upgrades whenever you lose a life. Like most early games made by Rare, Cobra Triangle was designed by brothers Chris and Tim Stamper. Additionally, they were joined by programmer Mark Betteridge, who had worked with the brothers on Wizards and Warriors, as well as the NES port of Marble Madness, and would continue working at Rare until 2010. He's the one that created the pause music from Battletoads. The music was composed by longtime Rare musician David Wise and is reminiscent of his other works on the NES. Many of the looping tunes are simple, but they nicely complement the game's varied types of action. Cobra Triangle received good reviews from the handful of gaming magazines that existed when it debuted in July of 1989, with critics praising the game for its fun variety of objectives. In modern times, players and critics still appreciate Cobra Triangle for its exciting gameplay and legendary difficulty. When IGN released their list of the top 100 NES games of all time, they ranked Cobra Triangle at number 66. If you'd like to play Cobra Triangle on a modern platform, it is one of the games included in the Rare Replay collection for the Xbox One. Modern players that attempt this game will still have to deal with all of the challenges the NES is notorious for. They give you a fair number of lives to complete this game, and even a couple continues, but you'll likely need every last one if you want to survive. And if you can make it to the last mission, the game's final boss, the Shark, is one of the most difficult final bosses of all time. But what if I told you easy ways to get powered up early so you'll be ready for the challenges ahead? What if I showed you simple techniques that can make some of the most difficult levels seem easy? And what if I showed you how to defeat every boss, even the giant shark? Well, on today's episode of You Can Beat Video Games, we'll learn all of that and more. If you're new to the channel, we're doing deep dives on retro video games and giving you the professional strategies that can be used by the casual gamer. Please make sure to subscribe and check out youcanbeatvideogames.com for episode lists, news, and official You Can Beat Video Games merchandise. Let's get started. Alright, Cobra Triangle. This game uses essentially the same control scheme as RC Pro-Am, so if you've played that game before, you'll be very comfortable here. The B button is the accelerator, so that makes you go. The A button fires your weapons, and left and right will steer your ship. Pressing up and down doesn't do anything, so don't worry about pressing any directions if you just want to go straight. Here in stage 1, we want to get powered up with all of our different abilities. So after you collect the first power-up pod, which you should immediately use by pressing select, you want to get over here and hang out in the bend of the river. Hanging out here, we should be able to get in front of ships that are holding red power-up pods, and whenever we destroy them, that will make them easier to collect. If you don't try to trap the ship and shoot it from the front, you may miss the power-up pod that it drops, and it will be hard to collect it. Keep doing this, building up your firepower until you hear that the time is starting to run out, and then you want to quickly drive up here where you'll find a 1-up. After you find the 1-up, keep shooting the ships nearby, but the time is going to run out. That's okay. Whenever we come back, that 1-up will respawn, so we can keep collecting it over and over again. It is worth noting that only running out of time is going to make that 1-up respawn, so don't get killed by the enemies while you're trying to power up. The first thing that you want to power up is turbo, but after that you're trying to increase your firepower until you have this spread gun. You can still increase fire after that, which will give you a different gun, but it's not as good for fighting the bosses, so stay with the spread gun. And then you want to max out your speed. You are definitely going to need max speed to be able to beat some of the later levels, so it's essential that we power that up early. It is possible to gradually power up your boat as you play through the stages, but this is a very difficult game, and getting powered up right here in stage 1 is going to give you a massive advantage. If you want to be able to take runs deeper into this game, I highly recommend that you just take the few minutes that it takes to power up your ship here in the first stage. After speed, the last thing that we need to get are missiles. We can power up missiles 3 times. The first set of missiles that you get are kind of slow, the second set are faster, and they're going to shoot out in like a V-type pattern from your ship. And after that, you'll get homing missiles, and the homing missiles can reach very far away. Sometimes it's kind of frustrating that the homing missiles don't actually home in exactly on which enemy you want them to home in on, but they're going to be very useful for some of the bosses, so I highly recommend that you just power missiles up all the way. We only need 2 more pods to get our last level of missiles, and that's the last power-up that we need before we can get started here in the game. We're also almost out of time, so we need to go grab that 1-up. Once you do have the last level of missiles, you could sit here and try to fill up your power bar so that you'll be able to use force whenever you need it, but we don't have to do that right here in stage 1. It won't be long before we hit a bonus stage where we'll be able to collect more pods, and we can worry about filling up our power bar and getting force online when we get to that stage. We have a good amount of time, so once we get that last missile upgrade, we're going to head to the goal. In stage 1, there's a place where it breaks into 2 paths and you can go left or right. I'm going to recommend that we go left, although the choice doesn't matter quite as much in this one as it does when we have to make a choice again in stage 9. Make sure you remember which way that you went, and if you do go to the left, that'll make it easier to follow along with the video. Things will be kind of out of order if you go to the right. Some of the stages are going to be essentially the same, but they might look a little bit differently, like the mine disposal stage might be backwards if you go to the right, but the techniques that you need to use to beat it will be the same. Here in stage 2, we can try to collect pods, but if we just stay in the same line that we started on and go very fast, we'll be able to collect a hidden 1-up right here. Once you have the 1-up, then you want to try to fill up your power bar so that force is flashing, but don't activate it. It doesn't work like it does in Gradius, providing you a shield that gives you so many hits. Instead, force is going to refill your health entirely, so that's nice, and then it will make you temporarily invincible, but only for a few seconds. You can still die by like falling into a waterfall, but it will keep you safe from most things, even the final boss. You'll definitely need force on a few of the stages unless you are very good at this game, so try to get force highlighted before you leave stage 2. These stages where you have to dispose of mines are some of the most frustrating stages in the entire game. You'll want to clear out those turrets. If you get hit by the bullets they fire, they'll slow you down. But the best way to avoid the computer ships is to grab a mine and then use 2 techniques: snaking and spiraling. The enemy boats are faster than you when you're going in a straight line, but they're slower when you're turning, so snaking is the technique of making a big S-type pattern to get to the goal, and you want to drive right over the goal, but if you miss it, you can use the spiraling technique, where you just hold left or right and you continue to hold down the accelerator. Now, if you're not getting into the goal, you'll need to briefly let go of left or right so that you change where your circle is, but the enemy boat shouldn't be able to catch you, and you'll get the mine and the goal eventually. Your biggest enemy there is the clock. Just hesitate for a moment at the beginning of stage 4, and that'll give you an extra second to get around these logs, which will make it a bit easier. You'll need to navigate around them. You can't really go through the logs. Hitting them will deal you damage and it will bump them out of the way, but they'll still be in your path. When you get to these whirlpools, you'll want to slow down and carefully navigate around them. Sometimes they'll just throw you in a general direction if you hit a whirlpool, but if you hit it dead on, that's instant death. So you need to be very careful near the whirlpools, and certainly avoid the logs as well. Stage 4 is a tough one, especially out of the early stages. Stage 5 is the first boss. If you fire your weapon right as that title card fades away, you can get a free hit on this guy, but with the loadout we have right now using the spread gun and the homing missiles, you basically just need to point your ship at this guy and keep firing your guns, and you should be able to overpower the sea monster. It can shoot a pretty mean fireball, but the chances of that guy beating you when you have a full set of weapons are not very good. In these bonus stages, you're going to be perpetually moving forward, and it'll get faster as you go. You need to hit every target, including those small missiles, to get the 1-up at the end, and it's in these stages that I sometimes think that the homing missiles aren't the best choice. The level 2 missiles might be better for shooting some of the targets, but if you can hit them all, you'll be able to get a 1-up, and let's face it, getting 1-ups in this game is not easy. Stage 7 is a very easy one: guard the people. All you need to do to beat this stage is keep rotating in a circle and firing your guns, and that's generally going to be good enough to get you through. The more people that are alive at the end, the more points you get, and if you can manage to save all of them, you'll get a 1-up, but saving all of them is almost impossible. I was able to do it after many tries, and I will show that here, but it's probably not worth worrying about. Just keep spinning around and shooting the enemies. The UFOs won't try to steal anyone, they just shoot missiles that will freeze you in place for a second so that the enemy ships can carry people away. But all you're trying to do here is run out the timer. Something else you could try: if you hold down the accelerator while you're spinning around, that'll make you drive in a circle. Make sure you're still firing your guns, but if you're driving in a circle, that will make it a little bit harder for the UFOs to hit you, so that's something you can try. And here is my perfect run on Guard the People. I tried this so many times. It's really tough to get them all safe, but it is possible. It may take a little bit of luck. Sometimes I was able to shoot a boat here and it had captured a person that was outside the perimeter and actually almost brought it back into the perimeter, so you may need a bit of luck to be able to get all the people safe. I wouldn't worry about it, but that's what it looks like. Here in Stage 8, if you wait just a second after that title card fades away and then hold down the accelerator, you'll just go all the way to the end, hitting every ramp, and you'll get to the goal. It's that easy. I do want to point out that there is a way to score extra points here by hanging out on the edge of the waterfall. So yeah, you can get extra points that way, but there's also a good chance that you'll die doing that, so you want to practice the other strategy. Once you get that timing down, Stage 8 is actually easy. You could argue that Stage 9 is the most important mission in the entire game. If you make the wrong decision here, it can seriously mess up your chances to win. There's a few ramps you can use as shortcuts, but they're not essential here. Make sure to hit them at full speed if you are going to use the ramps. You don't want to land in the area between the waterways. We're being conservative about shooting the enemies here because we don't want to collect any more pods. We have force ready to go, but we need to save that for Stage 12. If you don't have a full power bar, this could be a good stage to build it up. We're about to come to the fork in the road. It is important that you go the opposite direction that you went in Stage 1, so we went to the left in Stage 1, that's why we went to the right here in Stage 9. If we'd gone to the right in Stage 1, we would have wanted to go to the left here in Stage 9. The difference is later in the game we'll have to play either a log river stage, which is easier, or a very difficult ice river stage. I'll show you both of them when we get there. Stage 10 is the second boss, the crab, and this one is also pretty easy if you know the trick. If you get up here in the upper right corner, this is a pretty safe spot. You may take 1 or 2 hits up here, but definitely not enough to kill your ship. Try to move along with the crab, keep shooting it with your spread gun. You don't want to mash the button too fast or you won't get as much range from your spread gun. Keep that in mind. Once you're up here in this corner, the only thing that can probably kill you is the timer, so if you do get low on time, you might have to get more aggressive, but you should have enough to finish off this crab. And then we'll be on to Stage 11. Like most bosses, after finishing Stage 10, the next stage is a target bonus stage. And once again, if we can hit all of the targets, including the small ones, we'll be able to get a 1-up at the end of this thing. This one's a bit harder than the last target shooting stage, but it is possible to get the 1-up. I've certainly gotten it before, and it's this part at the end that's tough. You have to go like left, right, left, right, left, right. But if you get it, a 1-up is nice to have, that's for sure. And that's easier than the next target stage, which is even harder than that one. But that brings us to Stage 12, the Ice River. You can definitely steer around these icebergs, but if you just tap the gas a little bit, you can wait for them to go back into the water and then move forward. When you get to this narrow area, I recommend trying to stay on the left side, although don't bang into the wall. Use the same strategy, let the icebergs go back under the water and then move forward. And when you get out into this area, I try to go through it as fast as possible. It's the next narrow area where I usually have to activate the force. This is tough to get through, but if you have enough health, you can maybe take a few icebergs in that narrow spot before you use it. The later you have to activate the force, the better. It will fill up your health before it makes you invulnerable. And that's going to take us to another mine disposal stage. This time we need to get rid of 5 mines, and there are 2 computer-controlled ships chasing us. There's also an island in the middle that can kind of get in the way, although sometimes when the enemies take the mine from you, they'll get hung up on that island, and you may be able to steal the mine back and take it to the goal. Continue to use your snaking and spiraling techniques. Watch out for the turrets, especially the ones on the island in the middle. There are turrets that launch missiles at the end, and missiles seem pretty bad, but they make you drop the mine, and sometimes when you drop the mine, the enemy ships will lose interest in it for some reason and sail away. Then you can just grab it and take it right into the goal, so sometimes getting hit by a missile could be a blessing in disguise. But it can slow you down, and the clock is your biggest enemy, so I usually just try to clear out whatever turrets I can early on, and then rely on the snaking and spiraling techniques to get you through. We're down to our last mine. That is the second mine disposal stage, and there is one more after this one. That one's not too hard. So I hope that you build up some skills for disposing mines, because the next one's going to be way tougher. Stage 14 is another one of those raceways similar to Stage 9, but this time there are no branching paths. This is also a pretty long stage, so whenever you're going around the tighter turns, you want to slow down a bit. You don't want to be banging into the walls a whole bunch or you'll run out of health, and that could be a problem. You can get some power-up pods from killing the enemy ships here, and there's going to be another bonus stage after this, so we don't need to build all the way up to force in this stage. If you do build up to force in this stage though, you may want to use it to refill your health. It could save you a life if you get low. So just carefully make your way through. If you do lose a life or two here, it's not the end of the world. You will want to save as many extra lives as you can for the end of the game. The final boss is quite tough, but you do have a decent number of lives and you do get 2 continues as well. Now if you have to use a continue, that will take you back to the beginning of the stage, similarly to like if you ran out of time. In this one you will have to hit a few of the ramps. If you hit a dead end and you miss the ramp, you'll need to go back enough so that you have enough speed to hit the ramp without landing in the middle. And that's it. We've completed stage 14, and we are on to number 15, which is another bonus pod collection stage. Make sure you're holding down the accelerator before this one even starts. The electricity will come up behind you quickly, so you want to get a nice head start on it. There's a 1-up in the same place that you found it previously, but this time you have to jump and then hook your jump to the right a little bit to collect it. Just like in the previous pod stage, we're trying to fill up our power bar so that we have force highlighted. We're going to need force in stage 22. It's possible to beat stage 22 without force, but you will really want it. It makes it very easy if you have it. Once you have a full power bar, you can try to hide over here on the right side, but you do need to watch out for that electricity and make sure that you're not positioning yourself near any power-ups. Sometimes when you take off, you may collect a power-up by accident. Something I haven't mentioned yet is you can get bonus points by firing your gun off at the very beginning of a stage. And here in stage 16, we are guarding the people again, but this time you want to come to this upper right corner. This is where the enemy boats emerge from. There's a similar one on the left side, but we want to do it over here on the right. Just keep shooting in this general area and you won't lose too many people. But after a while, when the timer gets down to around 40 some seconds, the boats will just stop coming, and you can just hang out and relax. Guarding the people was already one of the easier activities, and with this strategy, you can't lose. So I do have to ask, what happened to these guys that stranded them out at sea in the middle of hostile waters? Were they on some kind of ship that sunk with no lifeboats? Or did they all just decide to go swimming, totally nude, in an area where human traffickers were abducting people? That seems like a pretty bad idea. Well, in any case, when the time expires, you'll get your points for however many people are left, and then we'll be on to stage 17, which is another boss. As soon as this fight starts, we're gonna tap left and start mashing the fire button, and then try to follow along with the squid. You'll be able to do a ton of damage in that initial barrage, and then stay sort of far away from it to finish the squid off. If it does get you with the tentacles, that could be instant death, and you'd like to avoid that if possible. Stage 18 is the most difficult of the target shooting stages. You're not going to die in this one, so it is a bonus, but it is hard to hit all the targets. It's not quite as hard as guarding all of the people so you get the 1-up that way, but the last little part of this goes very quickly, and it's tough to get this one consistently. And yeah, no, I missed a few already. Close, but no 1-up unless you get every single target. Stage 19 is the last race stage in the game, and this is a very long one, so get ready for that. There's a ramp right here at the beginning, so you want to hit that for a shortcut. and just keep making your way along. Be conservative about shooting the enemy boats. Remember, we don't want to use up our force, and we don't want to highlight some other part of our power bar so that we won't be able to use it when we get to stage 22. Stage 22 can be beaten without the force, but we'll be so happy when we get there if we have it. It just makes it completely free. So make your way around all of these curves. Many of the jumps are going to be mandatory in this one, and a lot of times there will be 2 jumps in a row, especially towards the end. So get ready for that. The 2 jumps will be on the same line, so that'll make it easier. And we lost a life here. Not too big of a disaster. We still have 6 lives left, which is plenty to finish the game. The biggest enemy in this game is always going to be the clock. In the most difficult stages in the game, the clock is the thing that's really going to mess you up, and that goes for those mine disposal stages and for the final boss. So make sure to hit those jumps. The jumps are pretty forgiving in this game. You don't have to hit the ramp dead on to be able to make them. And that will bring us to stage 20. Only 4 more to go. Assuming you went the opposite way in stage 9 that you went in stage 1, this will be a log river stage. If it's a mine disposal stage, well, good luck because the super ice river is going to be after this. When you get into this area with the whirlpools, I like to hang out on the left side. Fewer whirlpools seem to spawn over there, but you will need to navigate around the logs, and the logs can deal you quite a bit of damage. It seems like if you bump into the same log multiple times, sometimes that could be instant death, so do watch out for that. And if you end up right in the center of a whirlpool, that's also instant death. You may be tempted to use your force power here, but you do want to save that for stage 22 if possible. Now, if you went the wrong way, this is that ice river stage. So I'm showing this to you now. Hopefully you can avoid this one. The thing about this ice river is you will probably need the force to get through it, and then you won't have force available for you in stage 22. So that's why we want to avoid this one, aside from the fact that it's just nuts. This part's not too hard, but wait until you see what waits at the end of the river. Watch how fast these icebergs move. And we're probably going to need to engage the force now. There's just so many of them here, and instead of just popping up and falling down, the icebergs move towards you, which makes them pretty tough to avoid. If you get to the end there, you can try to stay on the left, but that is the stage that you're trying to avoid, and that's why I made such a big deal out of which way you went in stage 9. So if you took the path as recommended, stage 21 will be the last mine disposal stage, and this one is awful. Not only do you need to get 5 mines to the goal, and there's the island in the middle, but there's a whirlpool at the end, and that whirlpool can certainly mess up your spiraling technique, which is so obnoxious. Use every advantage that you have here. If an enemy gets hung up on a bit of the scenery, take that mine back from them. If you get stunned by a missile and the enemies back off, wait until they're gone, grab that mine and take it to the goal. Do whatever you gotta do. If you lose a life in here, that's fine. You just don't want to lose the time. Running out the clock will make you have to start completely over from 5 mines, and that is just devastating. This one's hard enough as it is. Well, we have 20 seconds left. That should be enough, but this is always a dicey one. Come on. It feels like the computer cheats. It's tough. But using your snaking and spiraling techniques, and there I was able to grab it when it got hung up on the scenery, using whatever you got, you should be able to persevere. We've talked about this stage a lot. Hold down the accelerator the entire time, no need to hesitate, and after you jump the second waterfall, that's when you want to engage the force, and just keep holding down the accelerator, and you'll sail perfectly to the end. This stage is very easy if you have the force. Now, if you don't have the force, it can be done. The first 2 are easy to clear, but you'll need to hesitate a bit in the air and go over to the right and then try to get over that last one. It is very tough to do without the force. You can see why I made a big deal out of that. Stage 23 is the next to last boss, and this boss is very easy. Just don't shoot it. If you shoot it, it'll shoot a devastating fireball back at you, but if you just hang out down here in the corner and wait for the time to expire, the monster will just die. Yeah, be thankful for that one, because stage 24 is the giant shark, and this boss is extremely difficult. We're gonna need a bigger boat. Head over to the right side as soon as this fight starts and then turn to face the lower left. Hopefully the shark will pop up in that exact spot and you can deal a ton of cheap damage on it. I wish I could tell you that the shark will always pop up there. It does not, but it's worth a try. You can be damaged if you come in contact with the fin, and if you come in contact with the shark's open mouth, that is instant death. However, you do need to get pretty close to this shark to be able to deal significant damage to it, so what you're going to do is you want to wait until the fin goes under the water, then try to follow the shadow and position your boat so that you'll be right in front of the shark's face whenever it comes out of the water. This is very dangerous, but if you do it, you'll be able to take a decent chunk of damage off of the shark, and the only way you're going to be able to defeat this guy within the time limit is by hitting it for a few chunks of damage. It's unlikely that you'll beat the shark on your first try, but after a bit of practice, it is possible. And that's it. We've done it. We've beaten Cobra Triangle. All we can do now is sit back, relax, and enjoy the cheesy ending. Well, that little scene where the people jump from the airplanes into our boat is the entire ending. For such a difficult game, that's all we get. And here we see the credits. The team that made this game was so small that they took the time to thank 4 dogs. I do like that they took the time to thank some dogs. If you're wondering why this game is called Cobra Triangle, the Cobra part is that we're in a Cobra class speedboat, but I think the triangle just refers to the fact that our boat has a roughly triangular shape. But I won't rule out the idea that it could be a loose reference to the Bermuda Triangle. Well, I hope this video was able to help you finally beat Cobra Triangle and send that shark to the bottom of the briny deep. If it did, make sure to give it a like and make sure to subscribe for more videos, because there will always be more insanely challenging games for us to complete. And that's why we'll be back again next week with another video game you can beat. Thanks for watching.